if there is no final ceiling to truth, if there's no such thing as pulling back the camera and looking at the cave, and if there's no absolute reality, then you really are just in a world where, your desires are something that you can get if you are strong. And your whole goal is to construct a world, as Nietzsche thought the Christians had done, right? Is to construct a world where you win and the other guy loses. And that's what the Athenians are basically saying. They're saying we could argue that, we won the battle with Persia, so it's our right to rule. We could make a bunch of different arguments, but really what we all know here is like we've constructed a world where we win and you lose. That's the rules of the world, right? Unless there is such a thing as true and false and real and unreal, there is nothing to keep you back from that argument, to keep you back from the Thrasymacheian assertion that might makes right. And this is why, when people say, well, it's just reality privilege, like why would we want, to not just to vanish into a virtual world that's like way better than the imaginary world, right? Well, it's not because like I don't want people to have fun playing virtual reality games. It's because collapsing that distinction is always offered as this promise of liberation, and actually is just the way to slavery of the weak by the powerful, right? So the answer to the reality crisis, right, is that unless you can say somewhere, somehow, that there is true and false, then you actually have none of the things that the reality crisis proposes to offer you. The offer is give up true and false, and you can have a world of wonders. And the answer is wonders can possibly exist if there's such a thing as true and false, and taking that away is just going to subject us to a chaos of injustice and the mere assertion of power. And so I would suggest, right, that as we are starting to think about how in our own lives and in our own countries and communities, like we are going to use and not use or subsidize these kinds of technologies, right, there's no need to be afraid of them. There's no need to like freak out about like Zuckerberg is going to enslave us all. Those things like are not written in the stars. They're just sales pitches. They're just somebody coming to you and saying like, look, if you buy my product, like I'll do this. And it's like, that's not the same thing as technology. Technology is something that we have created. And that, it comes into being when people figure out how to make it work, right? But the use that they propose tells you everything about their philosophy. And what I'm suggesting is that the reason to prefer reality is not because reality is more pleasurable, not because reality, is easier. It's none of those things. It's less pleasurable. It's harder. And yet, right, only in reality can the good, the true, and the beautiful exist or even have any meaning. Outside of the boundary between true and false, all you have is power and naked self-assertion.